Hi everyone, my name is Renee Lee and Lim.
And I'm Rajiv Verma. But really, I'm Jeeves Verma.
And I'm just Nay.
And we are first generation Australian Asian creatives.
Trying to be creative.
And Australian. And Asian. Okay, so this week, because I was Asian, my mother, she brings this up every now and then. Mm-hmm. And this week was the time it was due again. And I don't know, she gets into these emotional states sometimes where she'll ask my sister and I, "What will you say at my funeral?"
Oh. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And this happens regularly?
You can... semi-regularly, yeah. Like, I know to expect it every now and then. And
yeah,
so
right.
when she said it this week, I was like, there it is.
Hello.
Is it that time of the year again?
Funeral conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Oh,
okay.
maybe because her birthday's coming up. And maybe she thinks about, I don't know, mortality or whatever. I don't know. But...
what she's actually asking for is, what do you think of me?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. And sometimes I disappear into these, especially... I don't know if anyone else has these thoughts, but sometimes I'm like, I'm going to be so honest at your funeral. It's going to be the world's most honest eulogy ever. And that's obviously because I'm in a state where
But
I'm
then
mad
she probably
at her.
would say, so you'll say good things then.
Oh, I wouldn't tell her that. I'll just...
yeah, right. You'll just make her scared.
Yeah, but the question is obviously not what will you say at my funeral? It's like, yeah, have I been a good mother?
Yes,
will you say I've been a good mother?
Am I a good parent?
And then I disappear into these sort of like, oh, well, where do I start?
Where do you start?
Yeah, good question. What is...
I bet your sister has the perfect answer too.
Well, yeah, but she and I will definitely have honest conversations about mum and dad sometimes, yeah. But topic for this episode, good parenting.
Good parenting. Oh, God.
Good parenting.
What is good parenting?
What is good parenting? And I'm asking because I don't know.
So to be fair though, so you probably will be able to answer this better than me because I actually have a lot of parents.
Oh, well, then maybe you can answer this better than me.
But none of so I have a father and then I have my mother, but my mother moved away when I was 18 months old and I visit her sporadically.
Right.
And then my father remarried and I have my stepmother who was in my life from my childhood through to sort of when I left to come to university here in Sydney.
Okay.
And then I have a godmother who's was very involved in my life, but who then left when I was about 7 or 8 and then came back into my life when I was like at university as an adult. And so I have quite a few like parental relationships, none of which...
And then your mother came back.
Yes, that's right, of course. And then my
Yeah.
mother came back and now lives in the same city as me. And that is different as well, again, because
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
I'm kind of financially... she's so dependent on me financially.
Yeah, so she's a mother child.
And then my brother, my half-brother who moved from Perth to come to Sydney, he and I, obviously a brother and sister, but I'm 12 years older than him, and we had no real relationship until we moved here. So I guess I was kind of like a mother figure to him. So it's all like very all over the place. And I would say...
I was mum and dad.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. So you have a better insight into what parenting looks like.
Yeah, but you've got such a varied insight into what parenting looks like.
I would say I have a varied insight into what parents look like. Parenting and parents are two quite different things.
Oh, yeah. And both counts, you have such a varied insight on them.
So what I would say, good parenting. I think in Asian culture, parents are meant to keep you in line.
Yes.
Protect you from bad things.
Okay.
Give you encouragement. And I use that phrase like in that kind of politically correct way. There are other versions of encouragement which lead to discipline and remediation. But encourage you to strive towards whatever their version of success looks like.
Okay. I think that's across the board. I think that's all cultures.
No.
Oh, really?
No, because the things that were specifically in there is... So a lot of my friends from a Western culture, and the way that, like, to be honest, how I think I would bring up a child if I was to have one, are quite different to that. Because, you know, I mean, I think there's definitely the sort of protection of the child, 100%. But the idea that like you're going to encourage a child to do what you think is best is really quite counter to modern schooling and modern like early childhood studies, which is all about like give the children freedom to explore things, to find out for themselves what they're interested in, what they care about, what matters to them. And if you do that, then they have the freedom to grow into this kind of like whole human and evolve themselves. Now, none of that
applies to us.
Yeah.
But the protection, the encouragement.
No, but safety as well. So that's the other part, right?
Yeah.
So getting hurt should be a normal thing. Like people like, let them fall over so they can pick themselves up. And again, in a lot of Asian culture, it's very protect. But to the point where they never actually make mistakes. They never hurt themselves.
So fine. I was never allowed to climb trees.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right?
Or do outside activities.
And the only reason I was because I actually didn't spend this is why I'm saying again the parenting experience. I have all of these sort of sub parents because when I was a kid my dad was working full time, and so I would stay after school with my friends' parents. So I have all of these other parenting experiences with like Caucasian parents. I come from a relatively low socioeconomic background, so they were just like parents who were just getting by, doing their own jobs, but we would climb trees. We would, go out in the street. I won't lie, I used a fake ID once, whatever. But these are things that my parents would never have let me do. And if I hadn't done those things, I do wonder who I would be. So have you climbed a tree since?
Sometimes I look at trees and just know that I think sometimes I look at trees and be like, and just knowing that I can climb it now is like enough for me.
Yeah, right.
No, not that I can physically climb it.
But that you have the option of choosing to try. And this is what I realize. So this is the thing. So good parenting in Asian culture is that they make decisions for you.
Yeah.
They guide you.
Yeah.
Because they are the expert, they know. And they are here to help you. You assume that they know better than you. And that's not the case in good parenting now.
Coupled with the idea that you will always be their child, which means they will always make decisions for you, always, which is the case in my family.
Yeah. I think the phrase that my mum used was, I will always be your mummy. Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
Yay.
Yeah, so
but is that bad? But see, the question is that bad parenting?
Yeah, right. I wonder because I've always wondered if parenting you as immigrants is different to parenting in your own country. So I wonder if Indian parents in India have the same parenting style as like Australian-born people here.
Okay, I can't speak for the Indian community. What I do know is I spent a lot of time in Asia, so a lot of my childhood I would travel overseas back to Malaysia, and exactly the same.
Yeah, as what? As parenting.
So it's protect you, don't do anything that could hurt yourself, work really hard, achieve these goals that I will probably have chosen for you. If you're not good at it, we'll take you up and find something you're good at. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't do anything that'll make you look stupid. Yeah. And work towards like one of 3 careers. I
found my parents are a lot stricter than parenting. Do you know what? Okay, maybe this is a bit of a joke, but the fact that there are students in India studying other things than medicine and engineering, and their parents are okay with that. No. But I've also seen just that parents be a little bit more progressive over there.
When you were a child or now?
Oh, maybe now, hey.
See, that's the other thing, right? Because society has changed. And that's one of the reasons why the parenting styles have changed so much. And this is the underlying argument I have, which is I don't know that the modern style is a better parenting in terms of outcomes than that style or not.
Yeah. Okay, when you say, do you mean like soft parenting?
I don't think it's soft, it's just different.
Oh, no, what they call soft parenting.
Oh.
You know where that style of parenting where it's like, I'm going to let you make your decision for you. I understand.
Right. So collaborative parenting.
Oh, is that what collaborative parenting?
Yes.
That is useful. Actually, I'd like to introduce my parents to collaborative parenting now.
They should probably have learned it because you're an adult, so you're supposed to already
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old I am. I'm still their baby.
Yes, but I think you're meant to have stepped up in a slightly different way, which you have. You have.
Hard to say.
You've equalised that relationship.
Yeah. Now that they are more reliant on me for their care.
And that's it, though, that good parenting, when you suddenly become the person who is reliable one, the one who's giving the care, does that also flip the parenting role or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Christmas is now, actually, you know when there was a marker when I feel like my sister and I took over Christmas duties. Because my mum used to be, you know, the
Yeah,
person
yeah,
who's
right.
making all the food involved and making all the plans, and it was very festive and everything. And then we had a year where nothing happened because I think around the time my grandfather passed away, but it was a very somber year. And after that, she sort of was just like, I just can't do it anymore. And then my sister and I were like, well, we have to.
Right.
And that was the year where it was like, that was a very adult moment in both of our lives.
So can I ask about that? Because
Yeah.
this is that parent. So this is the flip side of the parenting, right? Is people go, oh, it sounds like you had a terrible childhood, and I say, you know what's funny? A lot of Asian kids though are very spoiled.
Yeah.
For the same logical reason. The parents do
Right.
everything for
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Right. They
Yeah.
buy them everything. They
Yeah.
have all the nice stuff.
Yeah.
They cook all their food. So was there a moment when your mum turned around and said, no, I'm not doing Christmas, where you were disappointed in her as your parent, as your mum?
No.
You just went, it's our turn now.
Yeah. It wasn't good point. That was a good question. Why wasn't I disappointed? No, because I don't think we expected her to do that. It was just that value of Christmas time was so important to us. Not Christmas as a
Event.
Yeah. But just that time of the year
Family.
where we've all just said, at Christmas time the family's together.
And to be fair, I look at that and I go, wow, your mum cooks you guys a meal every year until she reaches a certain point, even when you're an adult. It's beautiful parenting. It's beautiful mumness, which I never had. So in that sense, so that for me is great parenting. But
So when we talk about what good parenting is, there are some things that I'm really privileged to have been raised in the way that I was. What my parents did absolutely correctly was force us down our throats this idea that family is important. I love that. I love family. The way that we were raised were to be strong individuals who know how to communicate properly. Whether they did that in the right way or not was by the by. The fact that my sister and I are very strong communicators, that the way we introduce ourselves to strangers, and we have a very strong presence in any space.
So confidence, you mean?
Confidence. Yeah, confidence and stance, and we have both have big voices, you know?
Yeah, right. And your parents taught you that.
Yeah, just not as this is how to do it, I think because of who they are.
So they modelled it for you.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, right.
My sister and I are both entertainers. I'm in a more literal sense, but she loves cooking and having people over for dinner and to be hosts.
Yeah.
To be hosts. We
It's modeled by
value
your
that.
parents.
Yeah.
But they never made you do it.
No, but that was because it was important to them, and they were like, no, we're doing this as a family, we're doing this as a family.
Yeah, right. It's because this is the funny thing, right? And I'm not going into the details of my parenting because, you know, I really love and appreciate my parents in all of their forms, all the people in my life that have been a parental model to me. I wouldn't say that they've all done what you'd call a traditional good parenting job.
Yeah.
But the reality is but I am who I am right now because of how I was brought up. And that's kind of what you're saying with the modelling and then some of the stuff you were taught.
So they weren't lessons, were they?
Yeah, but the reality is like I could have been a completely different person with exactly the same parenting.
Yeah.
So I question this idea of even whether good parenting as a concept exists.
Right.
You know, because
it sounds like from my upbringing, what I'm blaming on good parenting is just them being who they are,
and you decided
and
to be
me
the
being
same.
in the blast radius of whatever was going
but
on.
also picking it up.
Yeah.
You know, that's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
Which in itself is like.
So do you become a good parent just by being a good person normally?
But then a lot of kids don't pick up on those things and become those things either.
Right. Yeah.
So it's that really weird thing. And then, you know, you go, oh, yeah, so there was the soft parenting as you're describing, which is that I'll let you decide. Does that make kids feel free and independent and really in control? Or does it make them actually not know what to do, highly anxious, and then yell and scream and get angry at their parents all the time and then not be able to take, commands? Versus the Asian child who's been told what to do their entire life, who therefore doesn't know how to make decisions or rebels and goes down the path of choosing a completely different thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to put forward a concept, which I go, good parenting is defined by whether or not your child looks back and is thankful for the relationship they have with you.
Yeah. But then how do you do that in the...
You can't.
Say that's retrospective. It's always retrospective.
There's no such thing as good parenting at the moment. There's only the most thoughtful, best thing you could do at the time with the information you had.
Yeah. So I guess as a parent, though, because one day I'd like to be dad.
Yeah.
And thanks. That's like, am I being a good parent? And to be honest, maybe that's a good way to think about it. Will my kid look back at this moment and be like, that was a good time?
And not even good time. It's like...
Oh, just a...
You know,
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is like I kind of go at some point. I'm like, a good parent. I teach doctors how to communicate for a living, right? It's one of my jobs. And one of the first things I say to them, especially to medical students, but sometimes even to senior doctors, is your job is not for them to like you. Your job is not to be their friend. You're in a really shitty situation because you are responsible for whether their lives get better, worse, or they die.
Yeah.
So your relationship cannot be one.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that was good, even in hindsight, necessarily. Yeah. You can hope it's one of trust and it's one of like feeling reliable and that they think that in the end they were thankful or they were glad that you were part of that process. But the process is never going to necessarily be one where people are like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did that. And I think childhood and parenting is kind of like that for some kids.
Yeah.
There are some kids that will never, no matter what you did for them, look back and go, I loved having a childhood.
Oh, I did. But yeah, there are moments in there that were definitely like...
Yeah,
oh,
and if you're a good parent, if in hindsight, you're like, actually, I'm glad I did that. That moment is often going to be a moment where the kid goes, oh, I never understood why you did that. Or that made me so upset at the time. Yeah.
When I think about what sort of parent I would want to be, it's somewhere in between what my parents were and like this modern idea. There are parts of this modern idea of parenting was like, you both decide, shut up. So your kid doesn't know what they want. You like know that because when you were that age, you know that about yourself, right? So sometimes a parent is like, just shut up and eat that. That's what you get, right? I'm going to make decisions for you until I can trust that you can make decisions for you. My parents never got that idea that I could make decisions for myself.
So they never grew into that.
They never grew into that thing. But I know that I'll be like, I've earned that trust. You've showed me you can make decisions about this, this, and this. All right, I'm going to put you in a situation where you'll be able to make mistakes. I'll be there as a safety net.
But you're assuming in that logic that you can read your child well and know when that happens.
I don't want to assume that. I want to have that level of communication with I didn't communicate
but the kid's going to tell you straight away, oh yeah, I can make that decision.
Yeah, but prove it.
How do they prove it to you? By making the decision that you think is right.
It's like taking a driving test. You prove to an instructor that you can do it. Pass, fail. If you fail, we'll try it again.
So it's continual testing.
Continual testing, yeah. But
Which is sounding actually more similar then to the stricter parental model.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I reckon I would be a strict parent. Yeah. You know who my favourite parent is from TV and film? Clark Griswold. Do you remember the National Lampoon videos?
Oh,
Chevy
yes,
Chase?
Right. Yep.
Because he's this guy who was just like, first favourite one of all time, of course, is the Christmas one because I love Christmas. Here's a guy who was just like, grabs his whole family together and we're going to go on a family holiday. We're going to do this and it's going to be family and the kids are just like, we fucking hate this idea. And he's like, no, this is going to be great. And he's just that guy who keeps everyone together despite adversity. And that's who he is. He's this guy who just wants to have to be the ultimate dad. And that's who I'm going to be. And years later, I think when they did the remake, they did the remake as the son grew up and now he's the family guy.
Yeah.
And he looking back and being like, yeah, that he was the ultimate dad.
Yeah, right.
And now he tries to do the whole thing. The remake wasn't as great, but yeah, just that feeling of like, yes, I want us to be a family. Family's important. I'm going to make us do this thing together.
So prioritize family interaction.
Yeah, because I think when you're a family unit, I think that's otherwise what's the point? We're not those animals, when you hear those stories about, and then she lays her eggs and disappears, and when the turtles hatch, they just have to find their way out. Do you ever hear those and be like, are they going to be okay? They're just, all these animals just fuck off. It's like, I've laid my eggs.
Yeah, so what happens, because this, so that's me,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot of people out there, just to be clear, like...
Who also share the same story, yeah.
And so then the question becomes, well then, okay, so if we're saying that's bad parenting, then how have we all ended up...
Well, you've made your own way though. That's the thing.
But do you think that's like, because there's like versions of that, right? So there's so you're going to be like, we all have to do family stuff together, but you may not force that person to play the piano or get like 90% in their economics exam, or, go to the friend's party they don't want to go to.
Yeah.
Like you'll have different things that you'll prioritize, right? And everyone has different things.
Yeah.
And there are people that go like, be part of the family, but it's not because they're like, I love family. It's because they're like, this is what we do because that's what we're supposed to do. So what you're saying is I want to imprint my values on my kids because I think these are important values.
Yeah.
Right?
I also believe my values are good values.
Yes, exactly, right?
Good societal values.
And so for people that have parents that are not as actively imprinting their values in the way that you're talking about, does that mean that their parents are bad parents? Because I think in a lot of Asian culture, for example, right, the role of being a parent comes with a lot of specific expectations, which are not specific to an individual human, but they sit in that social zeitgeist of what social values are, and that's what we get taught. Which makes us very good this is what you're getting at. We're very good at social things. We're very good at being socially appropriate.
Yeah.
We're very good at knowing how to fit in to the social norms, how to not offend anybody. And that's safe for us. That's really helpful for us. But it actually probably decreases the likelihood that our parents have imprinted some kind of personal priorities that they may think are more important than other things. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I feel like this is the difference between, because what I'm talking about, how I want to be a parent, is very active parenting.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And then there's passive parenting, which is like, I'm just going to be me. Part of me will rub off on them.
So your parents would have been very active parents if they were very strict.
Yes. But I think the thing that made them active parents are the things that I wouldn't do.
And that's what I mean, right? So it's interesting.
Yeah. But my active parenting will be the more Clark Griswold, where it's like, I'm going to just be super positive about the things that I do want them to take.
Is there anything that your parents have that you've had as a child that you're like, I will never do that to my kids?
I used to be okay with this idea of beating kids. Because everyone's like, I would never beat a kid. I'm like, I was beaten. Look, I turned out great. Beat your kids.
Okay, so that's not true.
The thing is, I do know that because of that relationship, I was very dishonest with my parents about a lot of stuff. So it wasn't just the beating. The beating was one thing, but just their attitude towards being wrong about stuff, or being, being a certain way, having a different opinion about something, like how they reacted to that made me not consider myself be very close to them. Yeah.
So you kind of had to disconnect. Yeah, to hide things.
Yeah. Do you have friends who are like, oh, my parents aren't my friends?
Yes.
And how weird does that sound? It's
like,
why?
And it's so lovely though. Yeah. Like the idea that you can go to your parents for anything, that they'll always be there, that they always, you can trust them to have your back no matter what.
Yeah, to this day when my friends are like, I tell my parents about all my dates, I'm like, really? But how are you that close? Yeah.
But do you think though that in some ways you do trust your parents at some level to be there for you, like no matter what? Is that in there?
Yeah.
Because then you go like, okay, so were they good parents if that's where you've ended up, irrespective of the day-to-day things that happened? Yeah.
Oh, there's some things that I don't expect them to be there for me for because I just don't understand. But I know at the end of the day, push comes to shove, and I will never be homeless.
Yeah, and they love you.
Yeah.
Just they express it their own way.
Yeah. But that's taken me ages to figure out what their way was.
And that's the thing, I think, right? I think that's the difference between like good parenting when you're young and then someone saying, yes, I have good parents when they're older. Is like, are they giving you what you want as a young person? Or are they giving you the thing that they think will be best for you as a young person?
I think they definitely gave me what I needed. And they gave me what they thought that I needed. And then I think as time went on, the relevance of that became less and less. Yeah. But they still kept imparting what they thought I needed.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating part, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that the other thing is like the flip side. So parents now are dealing with a lot of different issues. So very lack of discipline is a huge issue.
Oh, don't get me started.
Children.
Yeah.
Can you blame that on their style of parenting? Does that mean they're bad parents?
Yep. Hard stance. I've always had a hard stance. It sounds silly. It sounds silly, but and a part of me does say in jest. It's like if your kid's a dick, it's because you are. But where else are they meant to learn?
But now that's the point, right? So nowadays, kids are exposed to so many things. Yeah. So YouTube at the age of 2 or 3, most of them, to be honest, games and videos, and then on top of that, they get to school. And so they then experience hundreds of other students and
Right.
they get like engaged in all of those kinds of media.
I think
internet.
though all of that is grounded when you come back at home and you have family time. This is why family time is very important. At the end of the day, you should be able to learn, bring back what you learn. Sure, learn all the bad things, and go, blah. I trust my parents to be able to go blah with them, and they go.
So you do trust them to do that?
No, I didn't know.
You didn't, but you never went out. So.
That's because I learned not to trust my parents.
Right.
Yeah, I learned not to trust my parents with my feelings, because I knew that if I went Blair with them, they would always be like, nah, or we're mad at you, and we're gonna ground you for this many things,
Right.
and so the reaction was always bad.
But would you listen to them? See, this is an interesting
Yeah.
assumption we make, and I say this kindly, but we love to think that our child version of ourselves is so reasonable and so intelligent and so capable of like receiving feedback from our parents, and it's not actually true,
No,
right?
yeah.
So there's all this stuff where we push up against our parents just because.
Yeah.
And so that's why parents often go to the extremes of either I'm open or I'm closed.
Here's the thing. I was the definition of the most reasonable child in the history of the world. I was so sweet and intelligent and quiet and well behaved. So reasonable. I last episode we talked about how it was only in my teens when my mum and I started where I was really rebellious. As a child, I was like, I would gladly have myself as a child as my son. Like something happened.
You became a teenager.
Yeah, I became a teenager.
You're still a child,
So,
though.
with that change, my parents' parenting style, I think, was the same.
Yes.
Yeah, when it should have changed, adapted, and changed. Right? They were teenagers themselves. This is what I don't understand about.
But this is what I'm saying. You don't remember your teenage years from your parents' perspective. So you have no idea what the parenting process was. The same way as they don't have any idea what the parent, or they do, and they think they're doing a much better job than their parents. Right. This is the swings and roundabouts that I'm like, because I just go, I don't know how you define what is good and bad parenting. Like I don't know how you give it a judgment at the time because you have no idea what the repercussions will be.
Everyone who thinks they're doing good parenting, of course, no one goes, I'm going to do bad parenting. So if you choose to parent, you choose to good parent, right?
No. There are parents out there who struggle, who don't know how to parent, and they'll quite clearly say, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going to do whatever I need to get by, or I'm going to, they'll yell and they'll know that they shouldn't, but they've got no other way to express it, so they just do it that way.
Yeah.
You have a very like privileged and lovely perspective on how people would approach parenting.
I have this. Any parent who says they're a good parent, I will always be like side eye. I'm like, really? Oh, a parent who was like, I don't know what I'm doing, I will always trust more for some reason.
Oh, because they don't really know the impact of what they're doing on their kid, right? Because their kid's changing.
But they're questioning. They're not so hell-bent on their own, like, I'm an excellent parent.
But there are some things that you'll be hell-bent on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what my kids' traumas are in 20 years.
So I think that's where this gets to, right? Which is this idea of like kids go, oh, I have trauma, and I'm the first to say that I can quite clearly point out a number of things from my childhood that have made me who I am, right?
But they're reasonable to blame.
And yeah, I think the point is like, it's like in the end, you never know how you've ended up here. And your traumas, while they are definitely a part of how you form yourself, you also have at different points other things that happen, and then you have control over yourself. And then the same thing can happen to kids and it'll have a completely different impact on them.
Yeah.
And so there's no real rule. And I think that's the thing that and so I should disclose, so I can't have kids, right? So for me, this is all a very theoretical conversation. I have parented children before. I've had sort of kids.
I think theoretical in the way that you still parent the next generation. You still parent kids.
Yes,
you know?
and I do have kids in my life. Like I'm not discounting that. But I guess it has given me the freedom because I'm not actually either thinking, oh my God, this is coming and I have to do it right because it's my responsibility. But I'm also not in it. And once you're in parenting, there isn't the time to go off and like have some like intellectual reflective conversation with yourself about it for extended periods of time and then go away and heal and then come back. Like you actually don't have those options, right? So for me, I must admit, like I feel very very privileged as well that I can even have this conversation. But I guess for me, I go like, I look at my parents now and I go, there was Asianness in their parenting, 100%. And then there was some issues with how they chose to parent, which you can relate to whatever you like.
Yeah.
But do I look back on that and go, do I think that I have taken what they gave me?
Yeah.
And I'm now a person that I can respect? Yeah. So is it bad? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, if it had been different, if people had been really nice to me from day one, maybe I would have been a complete bitch.
I feel like who I am now, and I think this is very true for you too, is not because of your parents. I think the way I am now is because of everything that I've had to parent myself in those like the early young adult years.
Yeah, but I think that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm separating out because my parents did it to me or because the parenting created this environment.
Oh yeah. Right.
Because they're two separate things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So in hindsight, I go like, was it good parenting or bad parenting? Well, if people think that I'm a great human now, then it must have been pretty, like, you know, I think that's where I kind of go, I don't know how to draw that line. And I feel like sometimes parents were really hard on ourselves. Like even as a step parent for a period of time, I was so hard on myself, even though I had all of this knowledge and all of these insights and all of these skills. And the kids told me I did a good job. Like that's the sign, right? When you're with these kids and they don't even have to listen to you and they say, I'm really glad that you're so like, you kind of create good boundaries and you tell me what to do and sometimes you're really strict because I need that.
Yeah.
And I go, whoa, that's cool. But also none of those things are things you expect to come out of, you know, an 11-year-old girl's mouth.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not things you expect out of a 13-year-old boy's mouth. And so that in itself is scary because I'm like, why are you saying that to me? Like what is the situation where you actually can verbalize that? That could be bad parenting. Maybe I've, done something to you. I don't know.
Okay, here's a hot take. Parenting doesn't matter. Or doesn't exist.
It's not true. It's based on all of the evidence.
Okay. I'm just putting it out there just to see how it feels. Okay, well, hang on. Hold a sec. Like, not that it doesn't matter. No, why did I say it? I said that for a reason. Parent whichever way you like, okay? You could have done a shit job at parenting, but at the end, something happens with your body. You go through, hormonal changes, this and that. You go through self-development. You put yourself through this, that, and the other. Trauma, whatever. You come out the other end however you are now.
Yeah.
You haven't been parented the whole way. You were parented up until a point that kept you alive, right? Shit happens that you pull yourself out of eventually. I think who you are now is a large part of that. What effect did that early stuff have on you?
So that's going down the whole rabbit hole of like early childhood. There's a whole bunch of evidence that it has a huge effect, both conscious and subconscious.
Okay, great.
But I get what you're saying, which is obviously that there's this piece where you own how you evolve and develop. And I think that's very, very true. And so I think where I'm going with this then, now that you've said that out loud, is I go, okay, so maybe what I'm trying to do is change it from parenting becomes this responsibility of the parent, right?
Yep.
Whereas if I do certain things and I'm a good parent, then you'll be a good human. And I take responsibility for whether you come out a decent human.
Right.
What if the parent-child thing is actually a relationship, like any relationship?
Yeah.
Where at the time it feels like you're the one that's causing my pain and you're the reason that I like blah, blah, blah. Or you're the reason I'm happy.
Yeah.
And then you leave the relationship.
Yeah.
Or you don't. But you look back on the relationship in the periods of time and you go, oh, there were things I got from that. There were things that I did. And there were things that I've now become as a result of that.
Yeah.
But it's not one person's fault.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like this good parenting phrase to me is really interesting.
This I like. I like what you've just said now. I like this idea of maybe parenting is what can you put into this relationship with a bundle of skin and bones that doesn't know. What can you put into that relationship that will have it last for the rest of your life? If you can maintain that relationship with a human, because you have to put in all of the effort at the start.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then towards the end, if you can get that payback at the end of your life, that's good parenting.
So in which case, your parents are good parents, and so are mine. Yay!
Does that feels like because what you said about the relationship, like, yeah, maybe it's not the outcome to be a good person or not a good person, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Like, an evil person can still raise an evil person, but if that person is still going to be like, Dad, I'm going to look after you, or we're gonna murder people together in our old age.
Dexter.
That's a good...
Yeah, you know?
That's a good parent.
And I think that's, that's
It's not about values, it's about relationship.
So now you could go back to your mum.
I think we just solved a problem.
Well, I won't lie, because my mum always like has talked about how this is back when I wasn't sure about having children, and I actually, like, I had a miscarriage, and she was like, you know, it's okay, Renee, when you do have kids, I'll look after them. And at the time I was just like, like, you know, kind of going, oh my gosh. And she said, you know, she goes, because I'll know how to look after them better than I knew how to look after you. And that was some of the most interesting advice that I ever got.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. And it is that thing where I think that as a parent as well, right? It's we judge me. You should have known how to parent me. And I'm like,
no one knows.
No
as
one
well.
knows.
Yeah.
And because you're two people and you're in this relationship and you both grow and change, eventually, like, they look back and go, oh, you know. So it was the best, most interesting advice, because it was like really insightful. But the flip side is also, no, you won't know how to parent my child because you worked out how to parent me better. Because my child is also a different person. Mm-hmm. And that was a really useful piece of advice that my mum gave me. Have you had any good or bad advice from your parents? About
parenting? Not really.
Well, at least you can go back to your mum now.
No, I might have. It's just not. It's not. Nothing sticks out like
phase,
if I had to rack my brain for
any bad advice.
Oh yeah. They gave the sex talk they gave me was you should never have the sex.
Yeah, never have the sex.
Yep.
Well, that's not actually a parenting advice at all, because that's saying don't be a parent.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But well, okay, so at least now,
Yeah.
when your mum asks you the question next time, what can you say to her?
I'll say, look, everything that I like about myself, I feel like came from both my parents.
Such a good line.
Is it good? Isn't it nice, hey?
And we're going to leave on that note before you say
Oh,
anything
gosh,
else.
before I ruin it.
Love you, Jeeves, Mum.
Okay, bye. Love you. And we are take two. And we are first generation Australian Asian creatives.
Do you want to start it again?
Yep.